Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when we look at today's notes, it's fairly short. Not a lot to write down. Or rather, I just have a lot of facts I want you guys to consider. So I'm hoping that by the time that you guys are freshmen, and seniors and juniors and sophomores, that you are well versed in the water cycle. That you understand that things evaporate. That you understand that as they rise, they cool and condense, and therefore we get condensation. That therefore creates the clouds. Then as clouds become too dense, the water droplets simply fall out of the sky, known as precipitation. And that precipitation falls down the ground. And it does one of two things. It either runs off the ground, which is called runoff. Kind of odd, such a weird name. And if it doesn't do that, then it either infiltrates the ground. And then we get back to storage, and we repeat the process all over again. I'm hoping that at some time, over the past 10 years you've been in school, some of you 13, you guys have talked about the water cycle at least more than once, and certainly before this class. So I'm not really going to take a lot of time going into detail on the water cycle. We will talk about it a little bit at the end of today's notes. But what I want you to do is I really want you to consider how much water is out there. And when we think about how much water is out there, it's a little scary when we realize how little water is out there. There's a lot of it, it's just not very useful. So when we think about it in that sense, what we would call useful water, or available water, there's not really that much of it.
By useful water, do you mean like clean, ingestible water?
Yes.
Is there no use for like dirty water?
Exactly.
There's no way that people can filter it?
Well, they do. That's
Like, I
why.
know people in Africa like they don't have the equipment to do that. If we were down there, would we be able to filter it? Like, is there like technology?
Yes, it's that big. It's expensive.
Okay, just know if
So I have a lot of different facts I'm going to kind of go over. You guys can write down anything that you want off this page. There's just a lot of these ones that are out there. One of the biggest things that I keep in mind that we are pretty much 3/4 of the planet is nothing but water. Water is unique in that it is the only compound on Earth that exists in all three phases as a natural substance. Most other things exist as a gas, a liquid, or a solid, and then it takes energy from us to change it into those other forms. But water is the only substance that naturally exists in all three formats. Except for plasma. Even more interesting, and this is really where the water cycle comes into play, is that the amount of water is constant. We don't lose water. We don't gain water. The water that we have here on Earth is a consistent amount. The only thing that changes is the phase that it's in and where it's located. But the amount that we have in total remains the same. When we think about global warming and the farce that is made up around this concept of global warming, it's extremely important to understand that it's the water on Earth that distributes the heat. And that's done through the ocean currents. So we have very unequal heating of the Earth, which is why we have seasons. Not every place on the Earth is heated with the same amount of energy from the sun. So we get very direct sunlight at the equator, which warms those tropical waters. But a lot of people like to go down there during spring break, hang out in the Caribbean. And then this creates currents, ocean currents. And it's those ocean currents that then redistribute that heat away from the equator and take it toward the poles. I know we said this more than once. What can you tell me about the climate of Germany? Sorry. Extremely cold? Is it any more cold than here? Not really. It's all basically Germany has very much the same climate that we do here in the Midwest. Here's a little bit of geography lesson for you. Here's Indiana. We are below the 45th parallel, so we're about maybe saying that this is 30, this is 45, so we are about right about 40 degrees. Okay? If you were to draw a line, 40 degrees puts us way down here by Spain. Germany, on the other hand, is above the 45th parallel. So you want to start talking about climate changes or differences in climate. How does the center of Europe have the same exact climate that we have here in the Midwest, despite being almost 10 degrees farther north? Okay? If you want an idea of how cold that really is, the 45th parallel goes right through northern Michigan, and basically Germany and regions like Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, you know, the frozen tundra of Canada, are on the same level. Yet they have drastically different climates. And that's all because of heating at the equator and the water distributing that energy away from the equator. You guys ever heard of the Gulf Stream? What is it?
Like in the Gulf
No, not actually the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh wait, Gulf Stream isn't like, I thought it was just a general term.
Yeah. Anybody ever heard of that? Anybody want to tell me what it is?
Is it
The Gulf Stream is the major current that runs along the eastern seaboard of the United States. Takes the warm waters out of the equator, runs it up here right through the Caribbean. Doesn't actually go into the Gulf of Mexico. It kind of, all the West Indies right here create a barrier, and it basically deflects it. As soon as it hits right off here off the coast of North Carolina, comes in and gets deflected across the ocean. It brings that very warm, moist temperatures toward New England. Or not New England. You guys see where England is? You guys see this? Way in the back? Do you see that England is the tip of Scotland is at the 60th degree line? Do you guys understand that the 60th degree line is the Arctic Circle? That's a little scary. So you think about Scotland, you certainly don't think Alaska. But they're almost at the same level. So it's kind of crazy if you think about it. But it's all because that's what the oceans do. Water distributes heat. It stores heat extremely well. If you look at the temperature differentials on the Great Lakes, they stay cold for most of summer because it takes that long for that energy to be absorbed by the lakes. But long into December, the average temperature of the lakes hovers at right about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. What do you think is the average daily temperature during December around the Great Lakes region? Right around 30 and 20, but the lakes are at 50 degrees. And that's because water will store that energy for a very long time. We talk about the fact that what's available for human consumption, 1% of all the water on Earth is available for human consumption. That's it. Right? Well, we'll talk about how that's distributed. We will talk about it. Pretty much about 97%, 98% of all of Earth's water is salt water.